What is up, everybody? You know what? I'm not even gonna do the intro. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, the Rain Hide. I haven't done a reaction video in over a month, but I decided that, you know what? I need to come back and do another video. And today we're gonna be reacting to Game Theory, FNAF, The Rise of William Afton, the Ultimate Timeline by Game Theory. So Matt Pat and his crew. This is one I've been wanting to watch for like ever since it just dropped today. I already watched the first part of the timeline video, but I didn't record it because, you know, I just watched it on my own time. Well, without any further ado, let's get into the video.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, and officially page 7 of the FNAF timeline script. Last time we
Page
covered
7
the
already?
origins of Freddy's. We talked about
Well, I
William
mean, yeah,
Afton's
you know, it was a lot of
childhood
stuff.
dream project of making a singing bear come to life, and the infuriating
See,
moment
this is
that
all
his
the
dream
recap
is copied
stuff
by a rival restaurant
from
franchise
before.
looking to steal away his success. The merger of the two franchises results in William meeting Henry, a brilliant designer with a knack for robotics. Working together, they make
See, he's
Fredbear's
going over all the
flourish,
stuff
spawning
we
popular
saw
Saturday
last
morning
time.
cartoon shows, toy lines, and spin-off restaurants under the Fazbear name. When last we left him, Afton was thriving, the world of robotics opening his eyes to new and exciting ways of bringing characters to life. Bringing things to life, yeah, that was his core driving force, his passion. And it was this very passion that would mutate, twist, and morph from here on out in the story. Because with life, there is inevitably death. Something that Afton would become intimately familiar with. But before Afton acquaints himself with death, I want you to take some time to acquaint yourself with our newest channel. Guys, this is a huge moment.
Oh, the
us
fourth
theorists.
channel,
For the
I
last
remember
decade,
this.
We've had this 4-player controller icon, and now we finally fill in the final missing piece. Get ready for the rollout of our newest theorist channel. Drumroll, please. Style Theory, where we're looking at the science, math, psychology, history, and mystery of the way you look, your clothing, fashion.
Oh my god,
hygiene, and
oh
makeup.
my god, I hate this right here. I hate this boot. I see this boot everywhere. I see this dumb red boot everywhere I go. I see this boot. I hate this so much. But I'm gonna skip this ad. But check out that channel though.
This timeline. Onward
I'm
to
gonna check it
part
out later.
2, where things are about to get dark in a hurry.
Okay, come on, the Afton era. That's what I'm been waiting
1983,
for.
Business was booming with
Because this is the stuff that, like, I think is like the bulk of what Five Nights at Freddy's really is. And this is the part where like everyone gets confused because like the story is just so vast and there's just so much stuff to cover. So I'm really interested to see what his theory of like what the Ultimate Timeline is.
2 whole restaurant franchises running. Fredbear's Family Diner and
Yeah.
the newly opened Freddy Fazbear's
Yeah,
Pizza.
we're all
Together,
aware
William
of that.
and Henry had been able to take the hybrid suit idea and make it into a reality. They called their new invention the Springlock suit. And fittingly enough, it was symbolic of the partnership between these two men. A human suit as designed by William that could become a freestanding Henry
Markiplier?
robot. But because it was still new tech with kinks to work out, the rollout was limited, restricted only to the Fredbear's Family Diner location. All of this meant that William was busier than ever. He didn't have time to be a full-time parent, so he designed a nanny cam system where cameras and speakers were hidden throughout the neighborhood, as well as in his youngest son's favorite toy, Psychic Friend.
Also, imagine a guy was so smart that he set up cameras throughout the neighborhood to watch his son. Like, not even just the house, the neighborhood. Like, I feel like there should have been some kind of like I don't know, like neighborhood watch meeting or something. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, plushy Fredbear. But since cameras just weren't enough
Psychic
to raise a
Friend
kid, he
Fredbear.
also left childcare duties to his eldest son, Michael. There was just one problem with that. Michael was far from the best babysitter. He tormented his younger brother.
Michael was such a like asshole
left him behind.
in FNAF 4.
From his cameras, kids would be kids. Tomorrow was another day, after all. Except Michael's torment didn't stop. Bitter, angry thoughts would run through Michael's mind. Why did he have to be the one to take care of this whining crybaby all the time? It just wasn't fair. It was time that he got even with his brother.
I mean, that's kind of true, but I mean, it's your brother, you know.
Crying child's birthday. He and his friends would take his scared little brother and make him do the one thing that he was terrified of doing: getting close to the animatronics. That would be embarrassing for the kid that was such an embarrassment to him.
See, this was so disappointing when we all saw it back in like what, 2015, 2016. I don't remember when this game came out.
Spring locks inside the body had been triggered by the boy's movements, and they'd immediately clamped down. The wriggling stopped. The boy went limp, but it was just a prank. It was meant to be funny. The boy was taken to the hospital and was immediately given an IV. Flowers and pills filled the nightstand next to his hospital bed, but the damage was too severe. He couldn't recover. As the younger brother's consciousness began to fade, he could hear Michael's last words, a small and flimsy apology. But his father, Williams, through the voice of the Fredbear plush, were a firm and committed promise to a dying son. You're broken. I will put you back together. This would not be the end. No matter what, Williams' son would live again. It would just take time. Time that, right now, he just didn't have. His young son's heart...
Y'all know what that means.
Oh, the unknown of the afterlife. In the aftermath of the tragedy, changes started happening around the restaurants. Kids were now required to wear security wristbands to prevent anyone from getting outside without parental permission. Any kid who approached the exit without permission would have to answer to the security puppet, a marionette on strings that could fly around on rails across the restaurant to stop kids in their tracks. It was Williams' idea, inspired by Michael constantly leaving the restaurant without his brother. In the wake of Fredbear's spring lock failure, all the hybrid suits were getting retired, locked away at the nearby Freddy Fazbear location. It was yet another...
And they should have stayed there, because, oh my god, like, I know that, like, you know, Afton was the one that, you know, eventually went back and dismantled the suits and whatever, and, you know, that's where he got, you know, he got clamped. But I'm just saying that, like, once they sealed off Michael, they should have, I mean, William, they should have just left him there, bro. Like, those people in FNAF 3, they did not know what they was getting themselves into. Leave that suit alone. You're making an attraction. You don't need that, man. That old wrinkly suit, you're going to give people corona or something. Like,
another tough pill to swallow after all the hard work that he and Henry had put into them. William would eventually bury the
I'm so dumb, bro.
In a remote location out in the woods right alongside his drive.
Oh, wait, what did he say?
Actually buried the boy's small body in a remote location out in the woods right
so these from the mini games,
into and out of work every day. The death of this little boy sent the family spiraling. His wife, crippled with grief, was so distraught that all she could do was sit and watch TV. But his son Michael was far worse. Complaining
so that was the wife. Oh, I thought that was him.
The boy was so racked with guilt that he was convinced that he was being haunted by the ghost of his brother stuck inside the suit that took his life. The suit's three-toed feet digging into the wet earth. The words, "It's me," ringing through Michael's ears. Some nights, Michael would even go so far as to break out of his room to check the gravesite and ensure that his brother was still there. As for William himself, he disappeared into his work and his drinks. Junior's, the local bar, wasn't far from his son's gravesite. He found himself going there more and more frequently, spending longer and longer amounts of time.
Getting mad.
The bar gave him a place to think, to remember, to reflect and stew on how Henry had stolen his idea for an animal-themed restaurant. How they cut his character out of the cartoon. Everyone else was there. How Henry had humiliated him.
You know what? I feel like William Afton being being vengeful and everything. I feel like that reminds me of like something my sister used to say, was that like a lot of the times monsters are created because of the mistakes of others, you know, like it doesn't excuse what they did, you know what I mean? But like sometimes the reason why people end up being the way they are is because they were like, things were stolen from them, they were mistreated, they were given unfair circumstances, and that can apply to the whole family, not just Michael or the boy or even Afton. That could apply to like a lot of people in this series. This whole series has people that cycle keeps repeating. So that's like what I used to pick up from all the games.
The robotic part was the part that failed after all. William ordered one more drink, but it was one too many. The bar kicked him out and told him to go home. But William didn't go home. Drunk and angry, William raced back to the restaurant to give Henry a piece of his mind, only to find someone else waiting. Henry's daughter, Charlie, locked outside of the building, bullies laughing at her through the window. Fine, some other problem.
So the puppet failed.
Then Afton got an idea. A beautifully awful idea. This was his chance to get back at the man that had humiliated him all those years ago. Henry had killed his business, and now Henry's robotic suit had killed his son. It was time for William to do some killing of his own. Let Henry feel what it's like to have something you love get ripped away. While parties continued inside the walls of the pizzeria, William attacked Charlie in the back alley. It felt good. He felt free. The years of resentment and bitterness trapped in his heart finally released in a moment of pure unapologetic evil. He would make Henry hurt like he hurts.
Yeah.
William.
I'm sorry, that was done so good. But can we all just agree that like going from, okay, I don't like this dude and low-key I hate him, to killing his daughter is kind of crazy. Like, that's like, yeah, I understand he's drunk and he's not thinking straight and, you know, he's vengeful, but I'm just saying, like, that's a crazy leap to go from, like, I'm grieving over my son to I'm gonna take your kid, like, and kill them. That is crazy.
He became a killer. He dropped Charlie's lifeless body.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just an insane jump, but it happens in life, you know what I mean? Literally, because, I mean, I live in America, so
Charlie's death
I
would
know.
remain on the books as a random
I
act of
know.
violence. And though Henry had suspicions about William, there was no physical evidence, nothing that could link him back to the crime. In the weeks that followed, Fred
Low-key, Henry was smart,
closed for good. Two
'cause
high-profile
he kinda
deaths
figured out
in a
all that
restaurant
stuff.
with two grieving owners in such a short period of time was just too much bad press to handle. Besides, Freddy Fazbear's was still open, and it was the newer restaurant anyway. All the equipment from the diner, including the old yellow suits and security puppet, would get retired to that location, and there they would sit for 2 uneventful years. The rest of 1983 and 1984 were spent quietly grieving. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and the new cast of characters were a hit. Tragic memories of their yellow predecessors quickly faded. Afton kept a low profile and buried himself in work and research, quickly reaching Henry's level of engineering and even surpassing him. And while Henry slowed down to grieve, Afton kept going, even starting his own company, Afton Robotics, for all those pet projects that were a little bit too experimental for the regular operations of the pizzeria. The first of these experimental projects was a secret workshop under his house, a veritable bunker, which allowed him to work while still monitoring his kids via hidden security cameras.
I'm sorry.
9,
I'm tired.
3. A passcode that served as a constant reminder of why the cameras were so important, why he was down there in the first place. This was all to fulfill the promise that he had made to his son, right? I will put you back together. This was for him. All for him. Right? But cameras weren't enough. He needed to solve the runaway Michael problem. He had to keep him in the house. He couldn't have another one of his kids wind up dead inside of an animatronic suit. So why not run a little experiment on Michael? You see, all this work with Henry had gotten Afton to start learning more about life, robots, the human mind, and what a fallible machine we as humans were. Our reality is so easy to manipulate with a few sensory deceptions. Deceptions like sound. With just a few sounds, he had discovered that he could alter a person's vision. He could transform blank, smooth plastic robots into lumbering, twisted nightmares. Nightmares far scarier than he could create with actual materials. They would appear organic, rotting, putrid, terrifying. These would be his means of keeping.
So it was Michael, not the boy?
Maybe, but then again, this was the boy who had killed his son. He would make him sorry. And so
oh my, yeah, because he did hate Michael because of the son thing, but I didn't know that was him in
the death of his brother, but also facing literal nightmares.
So that was Michael in the room. I always thought that was the kid.
Years later, as a security guard, he would still draw pictures of them inside of his logbook. But all of these extra projects.
Oh, okay, so that makes sense because the logbooks and then the novels. Okay, because I didn't read those. Okay.
Even his wife cold and alone.
Why do you hide inside your walls?
Oh yeah, but Laura.
There is music in my halls. All I see is an empty room. No more joy, an empty tomb.
And despite her repeated demands that he
leave
his office and engage with the family, he refused time and time again, leaving her no choice but to leave.
You burned down my house?
You call that a house? It was like a morgue in there. You knew the
baby isn't mine.
Well, how's this?
I'm not the father.
The diamond ring.
And through it all, there was one lingering.
Keep that ring there, nigga. Oh, you think I care about that shit?
Feeling. William wasn't done. He had gotten a taste of what it felt like to be
no blame him.
What it felt like to be free. Charlie's murder had unlocked something in him, and he wanted more. June 26, 1985. Putting on the golden Bonnie suit, he lured children one by one to the back room of the pizzeria when no one was. At first, he was cautious. He would lure them with promises of cake and cookies. He told them that their dog had died. He would ask for help with homework. Susie was the first. He never truly forgave her first.
I was the first. I have seen everything.
But where to hide the bodies? He couldn't sneak out. Someone would see him. He had to hide them in a place where they'd never be found and where they'd never leave the building. They had to be stuffed inside of the suits.
I mean, that makes sense, but it's so stupid though, because it's like,
go into Chica.
Why?
Jeremy and Gabriel would come next, but it was easy. It was too easy. And with each little life he snuffed out, his lies got bigger. Their house was burning. They're just being kidnapped. Until the last one where all pretense was off. He let let himself get violent. Too violent.
I'll just wait for him after school, throw a bag over his head, hit him with a shovel, and drag him into the back of my car.
The body of Cassidy was far more bloody and broken than any of the others. He'd let himself go too far. That one he shouldn't have killed. With no more active
Cassidy,
animatronics left, he
the
shoved the
puppet
body into the one
spirit,
suit that remained backstage.
Golden Freddy spirit.
Yellow Fred,
My fault.
now broken and discolored with age. Broken, like Cassidy was broken, like his son was broken. Newspapers reported on this.
This is gonna be crazy when the movie comes out, because if MatPat has this timeline right, this is gonna be crazy.
Kids to the back, but they couldn't convict him.
Especially if it's like an origin story or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it starts from the beginning.
What they had was circumstantial at best, and so he walked away a free man. But Henry knew the truth. In these murders, he saw his daughter Charlie all over again. So he threw Afton out of the company and shuttered the doors to the old pizzeria. Henry would keep the franchise quiet for 2 years. This would not happen again. This could not happen again. How could he protect the kids? Finally, he developed a solution. He would implement an even more extreme security system in the form of new animatronics. Toy animatronics. Inspired by the toys that they had been selling years ago. But these guys, these were special. They were a new breed of robot.
Too bad it didn't work though.
Abilities.
But most importantly, they're all tied into some kind of criminal database, so they can detect a predator a mile away.
All the
Hold
original
up. I gotta check something. Am I recording? Okay, I am recording.
animatronics.
I had to check because like, I was like, wait, I hope I started it.
It was time to try once more. The year was 1987, and the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was making headlines in local newspapers. Headlines that just so happened to catch the attention of William Afton. Freddy's was back, and without him, that was his idea. His character.
This is the thing about William Afton, dog, is that like he just like he's so like jelly, bro, and not like the good kind, like, you know, like the bad kind. Like this man is really out here. This is all built on jealousy and revenge, bro. See, that's why sometimes if you can't forgive the person, you gotta forgive them for yourself. You just gotta let it go. Because you'll turn into this.
To cut him out of the picture.
Probably not.
As long as these restaurants stayed open, William would always come back. Then he noticed the phone number to apply at the bottom.
I always come back.
$100 a week to apply call.
Because I'm William Afton.
Not as an owner or co-founder. He would go back in the one place that they would least suspect him. A lowly day shift security guard. There it was. Buried in the back of parts and services, mixed in with the old withered animatronics, was the Golden Rabbit. With the yellow security badge still on his chest, he used his crank to pull open the spring locks. It was time for Bonnie to give an encore performance.
Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right. From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out, you know, especially concerning any previous employees. When we get all sorted out, we may move you to the day shift. Became available.
1987, 5 more kids. He didn't know what felt better, getting back into the suit after 2 long years of waiting, or knowing how devastating this would be to Henry the next morning. He didn't even try to hide his crime this time, just meant more blood on him.
So that's why he did it to
the kids again. The restaurant had only been open for a few weeks.
So that clears up a lot of stuff then, because one of the things that people always wondered about Five Nights at Freddy's was that like we never really got too clear of an answer about what the motive behind the murders were. Like, yeah, we knew it had something to do with Henry, and yeah, you know, but like specifically like the FNAF 2 murders, we weren't really too sure what they were really about. So, but now that kind of clears it up again, is that he did it as a sort of revenge plot against Henry, because once again, Henry would have to face the reality that once again, you couldn't protect them, you couldn't save them, and you're not gonna start this business without me, you know, unless I'm involved, because, you know, he feels, you know, William feels that he has the right to it. So,
but William was
which I guess
sure
technically he kind of does, but I mean, he killed dude's daughter, so
no one would. Whenever a new pizzeria opened, he would be there. But as he sat in his bunker, something else started to linger in William's mind. He had seen something strange. The old withered animatronics, they had been wandering around the building, spurred on by the puppet. It was almost like those old robots were trying to save the kids. Save them? They couldn't, obviously, but still, how were they moving? It was almost like they had been given given life somehow. Did he have something to do with that? The following day, the news would report a security guard getting bitten by one of the animatronics during the day shift. Was that bite meant for him? William's curiosity was stronger now than his bloodlust. He had to learn more, but how? There was no way he'd ever be able to get inside another Freddy's Pizzeria. Heck, there was practically no way a Freddy's would ever open again. He needed to create something new, something brand new. He needed to create his own pizzeria.
Due to the massive success, and even more so the unfortunate closing of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, it was clear that the stage was set, no pun intended, for another contender in children's entertainment.
Circus Baby's Pizza World.
Yep.
This would be the place where he could continue his work. No longer just murdering, experimenting. He needed more kids, and he needed them alive. And knowing that he couldn't show his face on the restaurant floor, he needed a way of remotely capturing his victims and preserving them for his work. With that goal in mind, he designed a new breed of animatronic. Their endoskeletons.
They have the
fluid
fun
and flexible.
time
He equipped them with sound
animatronics.
lures that could mimic voices. They could isolate children. They could incapacitate and contain them with zero direct input from him. It was brilliant. He was brilliant. Far beyond the simple bars and wires of Henry's designs. And the characters he chose for this were uniquely his. His new roster wasn't going to be tainted by Henry's disgusting barnyard bird. Instead, it's back to his characters, his creations. Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy, as well as two special ones. The first, Ballora, was an homage to the woman who left him. Now she would never leave him again. The second, the titular baby, was designed with his baby in mind. Elizabeth, his youngest child. She would always be Daddy's little girl. The one that listened to him. The one that obeyed until the day that she didn't.
Daddy, why won't you let me play with her? She's so pretty and shiny. Didn't you make her just for me?
The day before Circus Baby's Pizza World opened, she disobeyed. She didn't listen. Left alone with Baby, she got too close. The animatronic ripped in half and swallowed her whole. Scared and confused, the child fading into eternal darkness. By the time Afton found her, it was too late. She was gone.
No, I'm sorry, that's not funny. It's not supposed to be funny, but it's just one of those things where it's like, you really, the same mistake happened again, and it's because of him.
Of a gas leak. But wait, as he sat there at the foot of the stage, he noticed that something was different. The eye color of the robot had changed. Baby had been built with blue eyes, but now they were emerald green, the same color as Elizabeth's. Was she in there? Could this all be connected to the free-moving animatronics that he had seen at Freddy's? He had to know more. His mourning turned to excitement. He had to return.
Oh, yeah. Because this is where he figured out about the remnant in the...
Henry had clearly tried to reopen one final time with those old original animatronics from so long ago, but William's damage to the brand had been permanent. These things stank of death. They hadn't been washed in decades. But even if they had, nothing could wash away the stink of murder that haunted these halls. One night, then another, then another. William repeatedly snuck into the old broken restaurant to lure the living animatronics to him, one by one dismantling them, robbing them of their endoskeletons. The metal had to be the secret. It had to contain the remnants of life itself. But he had to know for sure. Leaping out of a room that was invisible to the animatronics programming, he dragged the oversized robotic skeletons back to his underground workshop, back to where Circus Baby watched on with glowing, curious eyes. Eyes that somehow felt alive. Not knowing what else to do, William melted the robotic parts down. 5 animatronic endoskeletons reduced down to one silvery puddle of goo. Could he transfer this living metal to his own creations? He had to try. He picked up a syringe and filled it with the molten metal and injected the goo into Funtime Freddy's twisted, wiry endoskeleton. And suddenly, the coils came to life. Like snakes writhing in a pile, what had once been cold, lifeless metal moved and jolted on its own. He'd done it! He had unlocked the secret to life itself. Except something was clearly wrong. The movements were erratic. They were violent, angry. Baby didn't act this way.
Yeah, because
This was clearly something else.
You killed them people, man.
Perhaps by
obviously.
And then portioning them out.
But I mean, I guess he didn't know that.
Complete beasts. He would need to keep testing to truly understand it. He needed more of this remnant. As he searched the old pizzeria one more time for any remaining scraps of metal, the ghosts attacked. His past victims come to collect their due, all led by Cassidy. The 5 lined up and blocked the door, and Afton's mind reeled. The scientific implications of this were incredible. Ghosts, real ghosts that he could see, all standing against him.
I like how in like, you know, they're supposed to be like dead morphed corpses, but like because of the Freddy's style, FNAF style, you see it like these. Because you think about how these would look in real life, it'd be terrifying. But here it's just
What
like,
couldn't they do?
you know,
He
crying
panicked
children.
as Cassidy approached. How do you
Get him,
stop something
Cassidy.
that's already dead? Maybe with the thing that resulted in their death in the first place. He
Break
would
his
gain
arms,
suit
break
like
his
old times.
legs.
He would regain
Break his
power
arms.
over them just like the day that they died. He was
What?
the genius. He was the one in the suit.
See,
he was the
no,
one
no,
in
this was the
charge.
part that was so stupid. Cause I was like, why would you
Snap
go in a
into place.
Springlock
Maybe
suit
it
when
was
it's raining in
frantic
the
movements. Maybe
in
it
the
was
restaurant?
leaky abandoned restaurant. Maybe it was just fate coming to collect its due. He didn't know.
Bro,
The
was
only
mad
thing he did know is that
stupid.
his brain was suddenly filled with searing white-hot pain as hundreds of metallic pins and gears stabbed into his body from all sides. All he could do was collapse, blood slowly oozing out of the suit and pooling onto the floor around him. It couldn't end like this. It wouldn't end like this. His
Well,
words
yeah,
was
it
that
would not,
his
'cause he
only
always comes
option
back.
was to survive, to live, to keep living. It took days lying in his own blood, but eventually someone found him. A security guard making a normal report. When he saw the animatronics torn apart in the middle of the party room floor, it caused him to file an immediate report of a break-in. An owner would have to come in and claim the damage. And who else would it be other than Henry? Hope jumped in Afton's heart. Henry would see him. They were partners after all. He would be the one to help
Hell
him,
no.
to get him out of this suit, to relieve him from this tremendous pain. Henry entered the secret room. His eyes fell on Afton sitting there in the pool of red, and Henry, saying nothing, turned and walked away.
This is just
Right.
to inform all employees that due to budget restrictions, the previously mentioned safe rooms are being sealed at most locations, including this one. Nothing is being taken out beforehand, so if you left anything inside, then it's your own fault. Management also requests that this room not be mentioned to family, friends, or insurance representatives.
And so there Afton would sit, hanging on for 30 years, trapped behind the walls with an iron will that refused to die. End.
Well,
of
he's
this-
already
I
dead,
say this
so-
part because it's not officially the end of the Afton era just yet, but this just felt like a really solid stopping point. The episode has gone on forever. Okay, so most of this is things that we already knew, stuff that's
Right,
been
yeah.
established and reestablished time and time again by the games. That said, there are two things that I absolutely have to address. The first and biggest is the placement of Sister Location, or more specifically, Elizabeth's death. To me, evidence in game seems to suggest that it was meant to come before the crying child's death in 1983. The biggest clue
Huh,
to this is that the
interesting.
crying child saw something. Remember what you saw is the phrase that's repeated over and over again by psychic friend Fredbear, aka William Afton speaking through a walkie-talkie in the Fredbear
That's
plush's
interesting.
stomach. But what did he see? Well, I think we can tell based on how the nightmare animatronics are visualized. They have mouths in their stomachs, just like Baby ripping in half at the waist to swallow a kid. There's also the empty girl's
okay.
room, one
Yeah,
presumably
'cause she
left
wasn't
behind by a dead
there.
sister. And
That's
lastly,
true.
it explains why he's scared, and more specifically, why Afton wants him scared. He needs his kids to stay away from the animatronics. He doesn't want them getting too close, because the last time one of his kids got too close to a robot, his daughter died. That's then why he sets up the nightmares, to scare both Mike and the crying child away from the animatronics.
Oh,
from
so
that
it was
point forward.
both.
That's why
Okay.
books like the Character Encyclopedia
All right.
outright
So,
suggest
okay, that makes more
the
sense. That makes more
crying child
sense.
in FNAF 4. That's why he has a nanny cam following the crying child everywhere, so he can keep tabs on his kids when they're out of his sight. He can't let another Elizabeth situation happen. The death of Elizabeth also gives William Afton extra motivation for killing. He's a grieving father. His daughter was taken away from him, so Charlie should die as well. He's lashing out at the world after losing his kids. And again, we know that at least one of his children had to have died prior to Charlie's death, based on the mound of dirt that we see in Midnight Motorist. It also allows Circus
Okay,
Baby
so that
to
even puts it
close
even to
earlier
more
in the timeline,
perspective.
which
Okay.
is how you wind up with Funtime Foxy appearing as Mangle in the FNAF 2 location. Basically, Elizabeth
Oh, wow.
dying first has everything it needs to fit, except for the most important thing, the murder weapon. Why would Afton be building an animatronic with a giant claw in its stomach so early in the timeline? At this point, he just has no motive. It just doesn't make sense prior to 1983. At this point in the story, he hasn't
then maybe
killed
not?
anyone. And we know for a fact that the missing children's incident
So maybe it is after then.
1985.
Like,
So
maybe it
Elizabeth's death
seems
coming
to be,
before
but
any
not.
of those events just doesn't work. Hence, why I
Right.
placed it where I did in the narrative timeline. Afton's death here is also a bit tricky. We know that he returned to the FNAF.
Oh, okay. So I see what he's saying. So it's like, it seems to suggest that it's ahead, but it in the actual timeline, he's putting it afterwards because, yeah.
To break down the original animatronics
Got it.
in order to
got it.
harvest their remnant. We know that he melts down 5 things to become one thing. Candy Cadet makes that very clear. So the 5 things are the 5 endoskeletons from the various animatronics. That would be totally fine if it weren't for one huge problem. On his 5th visit to the pizzeria, Afton gets spring-locked. So either the 5 becoming 1 starts in 1993, but then finishes 30 years later when he re-emerges from the wall to add the last endoskeleton to his pile, or he's had himself some reason to return to the original location after harvesting all the stuff that he can. It's not ideal, but it's the one angle that makes the most sense. And with that, this next chapter...
Wait, what did they say?
Afton makes that very clear. So the 5 things, we know that he melts down F1 location to break down the original animatronics in order to harvest their remnant. We know that he melts down 5 things to become one thing. Candy Cadet makes that very clear. So the 5 things are the 5 endoskeletons from the various animatronics. That would be totally fine if it weren't for one huge problem. On his 5th visit to the pizzeria, Afton gets spring locked. So either the 5 becoming 1 starts in 1993, but then finishes 30 years later when he reemerges from the wall to add the last endoskeleton
got
it.
Or
he's had himself some reason to return to the original location after.
Sorry, I had to go back to just reevaluate what he just said.
That makes the most sense. And with that, this next chapter comes to a close, thereby leaving us with 5 more games to cover. And another 40 plus years of Fazbear history.
Oh Lord!
Ooh, when you put it that way, something tells me that this might be 4 parts. Ugh, we'll see. Anyway, until then, my Fazbear,
a 4-parter.
Congratulations, you made it through a massive up.
All right, so I think that's the end. So that's gonna do it for this reaction video. That's a lot, but basically, to just summarize what he said, William was jealous and angry, killed Thing's daughter, you know, because he was mad at him because his other son died, and then his daughter died because of the very same thing that killed his son. And then he found out about Remnant because he realized, he was like, oh shit, these dudes are alive, and blah 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 blah. Gets spring locked, and now he's just in the room until further notice. That's the story so far. But yeah, I feel like this is done really well. I like how he explained some of the more confusing parts, because especially at the end there, because I know he did that in the first video. But overall, I mean, this sounds like a good theory. This sounds like something that would make sense. Like, it legitimately makes sense from a narrative perspective, but obviously there is some like discourse between what the game seems to be telling us and then what the narrative would be, you know. But I mean, that's because Five Nights at Freddy's is so vague. Like, until we got that new guide or whatever, none of this would have been possible without that guide, because, you know, we had the books, we had the games, but in the survival guide. But I'm talking about the other thing, or the fan book, whatever it is, the newest one that got released. And then there's also new books as well. So yeah, I think it's like 19 books, but this seems to be coming together. I'm interested to see what he's gonna say about the next part. But anyways, thank you for watching the video. Link to the original video will be down in the description. My socials will also be down there as well. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell for the post notifications. Also, it's sorry, the sound in here kind of sounds weird. I mean, I haven't recorded a video in a while, so maybe it's just me. But take care, everybody. And I'm going to go watch All-Star Saturday because I'm late to it. So I'm going to turn this off now.